Why is my electric bill higher than a nightclub's? I muttered, staring at numbers that made no sense. I lived alone, no kids, no fancy tech, just a modest home with solar panels, energy-efficient appliances, and a backup battery. So why did it look like I was powering a Vegas dance floor? That's when I glanced at the outdoor power line by my house, half hidden behind bushes. There it was, a bright orange extension cord snaking out of my outlet like a thief's greedy hand. I followed it, barefoot on the grass, around the side fence, and froze. There stood Linda Carver, HOA president, in a floppy straw hat and floral robe, sipping iced tea with one hand while plugging the other end into her industrial fan and heater combo on her patio. She wasn't just stealing electricity, she declared war. That moment set the stage for everything that followed. I'd bought this place for peace after retiring early from my civil engineering career. I craved quiet mornings, fresh air, and freedom from city chaos. Drama was the last thing I wanted, especially from a neighborhood dictator who thought her HOA title gave her a divine right to siphon power like a labeled parasite. Linda had always been a strange figure around here, with her clipboard, obsession with roses, and a personality that could curdle cream. She ran the HOA like a petty empire, inventing rules to fine people for crooked mailboxes or unseasonal wreaths. I kept my head down, paid my dues, and stayed off her radar until now. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I unscrewed the outlet cover, checked the wiring, and confirmed my suspicions. The breaker was tripping from daily overuse. Curious, I pulled up my smart meter app. Sure enough, power spikes hit every day from 1 p.m. to 5:00 p.m. prime time for Linda's patio tanning and gossip sessions. So, I did what any reasonable, non-violent guy would do when his power was being stolen by an HOA tyrant. I bought a motion-activated trail camera, hid it in a decorative birdhouse near the outlet, and waited. The footage over the next 3 days was both hilarious and infuriating. Linda would strut over, often in garish workout clothes, plug in the cord like she owned my property, and saunter back, texting with one hand and clutching a smoothie in the other. On day 3, she even shouted to her husband, "Don't worry, dear, we've got plenty of juice for the blender this time." A blender. She was blending drinks with my electricity. I wasn't just annoyed, I was floored by her audacity. When I finally approached her, the real madness began. I caught her mid-plug, her hand on the cord like she was defusing a bomb. "Linda," I said calmly, "did you know that's my outlet?" She didn't flinch. "Oh, this again. Look, your outlet's on the HOA-maintained side yard, which is technically community property. The board and I voted to allow utility sharing for outdoor events." I stared, stunned. There was a vote. She smirked. "Well, unofficial, but I'm president, so it stands." I told her to stop, or I'd call the city. She laughed, muttering, "You should thank me for using your dead space," and walked off. I could have exploded, but I stayed cool. She just confirmed she thought my outlet was fair game. She was about to learn a messy lesson. Here's what Linda didn't know, something even most electricians wouldn't catch without studying the property schematics. That outdoor outlet was rerouted years ago by the previous owner, a sustainable systems expert, during a septic system upgrade. It was tied to the same auxiliary line as the septic tank's aeration motor, part of an advanced eco-waste system I'd kept running with custom automation. Normally, the line was dormant, but heavy power draws triggered a backflow failsafe, releasing pressure into an overflow pipe right under Linda's backyard drainage install, which she'd pushed through last year without HOA votes or county permits. It was almost poetic. That night, I checked the system. The load stress was in the red zone. Linda's cords were spiking my bills and stressing the septic's pressure valves. One more big pull, and the loop would back up. Instead of stopping it, I tweaked the safety limit just high enough to avoid shutdown and added a timer. Linda had plugged into a ticking septic bomb. The next day, she announced her annual summer garden gala with glossy flyers on HOA letterhead, promising drinks, music, and dancing lights, powered by our green energy neighbor, Ethan. I hadn't agreed to anything, but I stayed silent. I prepped the septic monitor, calibrated the sensors, cleaned my porch rocking chair, poured a cold drink, and charged my phone to record it all. By 2 p.m., the cords were plugged in, music blared, and Linda's guests twirled under fairy lights and fans. My outlet glowed like a beacon of her supposed generosity. On my control app, The countdown began. 1 hour until pressure failure. I could stop it with a tap, but I didn't. Linda had made her choices. I just watched the numbers tick down, waiting for her smug grin to turn into a scream. And when it did, she'd never see a power cord the same way again. The neighborhood buzzed with excitement. Linda's galas were rare, and she went all out. Guests arrived dressed for a wedding, not a backyard party. She'd rented sound equipment, hired a local guitarist, and set up a margarita machine next to her fire pit. From my porch, I rocked slowly, lemonade in hand, phone recording. It felt like watching a heist movie where the thief doesn't know they're robbing themselves. My smart monitor blinked on the side table. 58 minutes left. Tension wasn't just in the wires, it hummed through the air. Linda strutted like royalty, barking orders at HOA helpers desperate to stay in her favor. The extension cord from my outlet was taped across the grass, feeding a tangle of splitters and adapters. It looked like she was powering a stadium, not a patio. Fans roared, lanterns buzzed from overloaded LEDs, and the ice machine groaned. A kid ran by with a giant slushie, followed by a woman in heels swatting mosquitoes like she was in a horror flick. I sipped my drink and smiled. At 38 minutes, the septic system's pressure hit critical. The fail-safe valve activated once, but the constant draw from fans, speakers, and a karaoke machine prevented a reset. The pressure log read 93% stable, barely. Linda grabbed the mic, bragging about her energy-efficient event, thanks to Ethan, who kindly let us use his outlet. She glanced at my porch. Guests clapped. I waved, smirking. If only they knew. At 22 minutes, the pressure spiked again, read for 3 seconds. Linda's husband flipped on a fog machine. Yes, a fog machine for ambience. I nearly dropped my drink. Fog rolled across the deck as someone cranked the bass. Guests danced, singing off-key to Sweet Caroline. An elderly neighbor, Mr. Hayes, clutched his stomach and retreated, escaping the noise. I didn't blame him. At 15 minutes, the septic system beeped, texting me. Secondary containment breach in 13 minutes if input sustained. My thumb hovered over the app. I could stop it, but this wasn't revenge, it was a lesson. Linda had mocked my warnings and laughed in my face. What was coming was physics, the consequence of her arrogance. At 10 minutes, the aeration pump hummed faintly, a sound only I recognized as trouble. It wasn't built for sustained overload, and her power draws kept it active too long. The fail-safe valve stuck halfway, as predicted. Pressure would soon hit the relief pipe, curving through the HOA's drainage channel and ending under Linda's patio gravel. At 7 minutes, kids did cartwheels on the grass. Adults fawned over Linda's rants, probably about entitlement or boundaries. The irony was thick. At 4 minutes, I walked to my property line for a better view. Linda spotted me, shouting, "Careful, Ethan, don't step on the shared lawn during a party, you might have fun." Her guests laughed. I nodded, giving a mock salute. At 2 minutes, she waved her arms like a conductor, the karaoke volume spiked, and someone poured more margaritas. The speakers dropped heavy bass, vibrating my ribs. The app flashed red, 0. A brief silence fell, not true silence, but the pause before disaster. Then, a gurgle, like a clogged drain, came from Linda's party area. Guests looked down, confused. Murmurs spread. A brownish-gray spurt shot from a metal cap under a table, spraying the white tablecloth like a rogue champagne bottle. People screamed, stumbling back, knocking into each other. A second, Messier burst followed. The relief pipe, overwhelmed by pressure and old fittings, ruptured. Septic overflow flooded Linda's roses and her decorative koi pond. The water turned murky, koi vanished, and the smell hit like a wall. Guests gagged, fleeing, dropping drinks and purses. The guitarist bolted mid-song. Someone yelled, "It's sewage." Linda stood frozen, mic in hand, face shifting from confusion to horror. Her guests trampled her roses in a frantic exodus. The fog machine mixed with septic mist in a hellish swirl. Linda dropped the mic, triggering an ear-splitting squeal. She slipped in the muck, not just mud, and fell hard. I didn't gloat or speak. I watched the tragic comedy unfold, all caught on camera. The septic system, overloaded by her greed, had turned her gala into a disaster zone. The stench lingered into the evening. Even after guests fled, plumbers cordoned the area, and Linda's husband hosed her off behind their fence, visibly mortified. She yelled at the plumbers, demanding they fix whatever sabotage Ethan did, as if I'd rewired the septic system to erupt on cue. The truth was simpler. She stole power, overloaded a system she didn't understand, and ignored every warning until the consequences hit her in front of half the neighborhood. But Linda didn't take responsibility. By morning, an HOA violation notice was taped to my door, signed by her, accusing me of creating an unauthorized environmental hazard and demanding a $5,000 fine. She claimed I'd configured my utilities to endanger HOA grounds. It was such a brazen lie I almost laughed, but she was serious, a cover-up attempt, with me as the scapegoat. The next few days were a circus of escalation. 2 code enforcement officers arrived with complaints of illegal construction, unsafe chemical storage, and sewage modifications. I showed them my permits, system diagrams, and county sign-offs from 3 years ago. They apologized and left. The next day, I got a parking citation for my truck, labeled abandoned commercial equipment, parked in my own driveway. Then came HOA citations, untrimmed hedges, improper mailbox alignment, and reflective solar panel glare. Linda had gone scorched earth. I documented everything: letters, violations, interactions. I backed up the camera footage, printed screenshots of her plugging in, and pulled power usage logs. I compiled inspection reports and county emails, building an airtight case. Then Linda made a fatal mistake. Past midnight, I heard rattling outside. Through the blinds, I saw her crouched by my electrical box, yanking at the cover with a screwdriver. I slipped out the back, phone recording, and approached silently. When I flicked on my flashlight, she screamed like a startled raccoon and fell back. "What the hell, Linda?" I asked. She stammered about electrical safety checks, but I pointed to the camera above. "Smile for the HOA newsletter." She bolted, tripping over her own cord. I called the police to file a report, not press charges. The officers reviewed the footage, spoke to her, and returned, shaking their heads. One muttered, "She's got that HOA confidence. We see it too often." Word spread. Neighbors shared their own stories. Fines for non-existent rules, secret meetings, HOA funds used to re-landscape Linda's yard twice in a year. She'd ruled by intimidation, but her septic debacle shifted the tide. Still, she doubled down, launching a PR campaign. Flyers titled "The Truth About the Septic Scandal" appeared in mailboxes, painting her as a victim of my dangerous utilities and madman's lab. It was vile, but she misjudged her audience. Someone posted my gala footage online, showing her plugging in and the sewage eruption. Comments exploded. "She's stealing power. How's this Ethan's fault?" Neighbors revealed more other power thefts, gardening fund discrepancies. The tide turned fast. The real shift came when the city health department investigated contamination in a nearby creek, linked to Linda's unpermitted drainage. I handed over my footage, logs, and schematics. When they questioned her, she slammed the door. The inspector said, "We're escalating this." 2 HOA board members resigned, tired of her circus. Linda kept strutting, walking her dog past my house, pausing to glare, expecting me to crack. I just rocked on my porch, nodded, and let her walk on. I wasn't done. The pressure hadn't peaked. The calm before the storm arrived in a manila envelope from the county zoning and environmental office. They were investigating septic backflow and Linda's unpermitted landscaping, which contaminated a protected wetland. They requested my help as a system operator. The chessboard flipped. Linda thought she was in control, but I wasn't just a retiree growing tomatoes. I was a licensed civil engineer with 15 years designing water management systems. My setup was a legal, optimized hybrid with full data logs. The septic failsafe wasn't sabotage. It did exactly what it was built for when Linda pulled triple the rated power. The county wanted my expertise because her recklessness was now a public hazard. I met the investigators, providing footage, logs, schematics, and certificates. They were stunned, especially by Linda's unpermitted landscaping blueprints, which funneled waste into a protected zoning and environmental infraction with huge consequences. Meanwhile, I filed a civil suit against Linda and the HOA for harassment, tampering, and defamation. I compiled a binder of her illegal citations, backed by neighbors' statements about her unauthorized fines and inspections. One shared an email where she told the board to let Ethan's outlet teach him a lesson. It was gasoline. I just needed a match. Linda, oblivious, hosted wine nights, bragging about seizing my utilities for community use. I recorded her rants, accusing me of running an unlicensed waste facility and hinting at militia ties. The emergency HOA hearing, mandated by the county, was her undoing. Half the neighborhood attended. Linda, in a red blazer, rambled about unified communities and blamed me for a faulty system. Then they played my video, her plugging in, bragging about free power, timestamps matching the septic logs. The county revealed her landscaping caused wetland contamination. Neighbors gasped. One shouted, "You said it was a butterfly garden." Others demanded answers about HOA fees and secret bylaw changes. Linda claimed lost permits and edited footage, but the county shut her down. She faced a potential $250,000 fine, and the HOA was audited. She stood speechless, the room in chaos. A motion to remove her passed near unanimously. At my civil suit, Linda's lawyer argued the outlet's visibility made it communal. The judge asked, "Did you plug in without consent?" Her stutter ended it. I won damages, attorney fees, and an apology. She was barred from HOA roles for 5 years. The county charged her for falsifying permits and environmental damage. The HOA was ordered to restructure, and I was suggested as infrastructure advisor. I took the role to build a fair system, proposing the Linda provision to limit HOA power and protect property rights. It passed unanimously. Linda's world collapsed. Legal fees and fines crushed her. Her husband left, and she sold her house at a loss, fleeing her ruined kingdom. The HOA elected new leaders, fostering community with events and donation drives. I upgraded my septic and solar systems, added a locked outlet box labeled private, do not use, and funded a native plant garden where Linda's disaster unfolded. A plaque read, "Respect boundaries electrical, personal, and otherwise." The neighborhood earned a green certification thanks to my logs. New owners, a young couple, moved into Linda's house, uninterested in HOA drama. I told them the outlet was a reminder not to upset neighbors. They laughed. One evening, Linda appeared at my barbecue, holding the court-ordered apology letter. "I figured you'd want the original," she said, tired and subdued. "You could have mailed it," I replied. She nodded, turned to leave. "Linda," I called, "plug into my outlet again, and I'm wiring it to a skunk sprayer." She gave a faint smile and walked away. Me last sight of her. The neighborhood settled into peace. From my porch, stars above, I reflected on the chaos, fines, flyers, the septic flood. It felt like a bad sitcom with a perfect ending. The outlet, locked and labeled, stood as a monument to ego's folly and the power of holding your ground. I fought not with fists or words, but with a septic tank, and nothing flushed Linda faster than the truth catching up in her own backyard.